Welcome to this week's podcast. This is Ryan Chandler. I have the honor of getting to sit in with Dr. Wiles and Katy Reed Hodges. We talk not only about how we met our spouses and some other fun stories, but Dr. Wiles recaps some of his sermon. We talk about darkness and also a little bit of what's coming up this Sunday. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome to this week's episode. For those of you listening, you won't know this. But for those of you watching, one, you already know that Luke Stair's not here, and instead we've got Ryan Chandler.
Woo-hoo. Way to go, Ryan.
Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
But if you're listening, you know Ryan's here, but you still don't know that Dr. Wiles and I have just come from 2 funerals.
Correct.
And we are in our suits.
Yes.
Straight up. Ryan has come from Ryan's
Christmas
world.
party. A Christmas party.
A Christmas party.
Yeah.
And he is in a sweater.
I've got
It's Christmas themed.
There's a cat on it.
How do you want to describe it?
This is my kitty cat Christmas
My
sweater.
kitty cat Christmas
exactly
sweater.
We
It is.
don't have a cat.
Okay.
But I still like the sweater.
Do you like kitty cats?
I do like kitty cats. I'm an animal guy, so I
Okay.
saw the sweater and it was just bizarre. I've been wearing it for
It called
years.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
The
like
best
it.
thing about his
He's got a-
ensemble is the Texas Rangers cap.
Oh, that's right.
Never
I have a
looked
Rangers hat
better.
on.
Yeah,
Yep.
tell me more about the Rangers hat, because
Never
I
looked
know you
better.
to be an Astros fan.
I am an Astros fan. The hat matches the sweater. That's the only reason it's on.
And that's how cheaply you'll sell out
Exactly, yeah.
for a good matching outfit.
Really, truly, I have no loyalties in any sort of sports.
Okay.
Which makes
Yeah.
it very fun when I
how
know
do you-
somebody does have a sports loyalty, because then I can just, stick it to them,
Yeah.
and they have nothing to say.
I can't
you're-
imagine
in
anybody with a
response.
sports
So
loyalty.
your
That's so odd.
your
So
motivation in sportswear is not allegiance to any sports team.
No.
It is sticking it to
It's what will cause somebody else the most
Agony.
pain, anxiety. I especially like knowing when A&M loses, so I can ask A&M people, how did the game go yesterday? And just so they get mad. They get real mad,
and there's
too.
lots of them in our midst.
So many things I love about Ryan Chandler.
Okay, speaking of sports, I can't hang in this conversation, and y'all might not. I know you can, D-Dub, because you're always
Whoa.
correct. But
Whoa.
There's the college football. They're trying something new,
Yep, college football playoff.
a playoff.
A different type of playoff.
And they just released the names of the
They
teams.
did.
And who's gonna play whom.
Correct.
Are you aware of this, Ryan?
I
Are
am
you in this loop?
I am, because on Instagram I keep seeing these posts about these funny memes about Alabama not making
Yeah, I think
it.
that's the big news.
Yeah,
is that
and
Alabama didn't make
so
it.
lots of memes making fun of Alabama people being really upset
I'm
about
guessing
not being
Alabama
in the
did make a
playoffs.
bowl game.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
do you know? What bowl game they made?
They're playing a bowl
Is it some
in
random-
Tampa. Yeah, it has a new name. It's a new sponsor.
I read through the list of bowl names. They're almost all new.
Yeah,
like
they
I
have
don't
different
recognize
sponsors.
any of them.
But the good thing is, and the piece of news that matters is that Alabama did not make it in the 12
Breaking news.
playoff.
Sorry,
Here, let me,
Alabama people.
So if you're an
Sorry,
Auburn
Kenny.
fan,
I pushed a button.
if
Hold
you're an
on.
Auburn
It's
fan,
still
that's
playing
great
out.
news.
Breaking news. Alabama didn't make it.
That's right.
What's Auburn doing?
Auburn is right now. We're a basketball school mostly, so we're
Okay.
focused on basketball.
That's called redirection.
And men's golf.
For those listening.
Okay, that's what we're kind of
And golf, yeah.
and academic. I mean, our kids go to college in Alabama for the academics.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
You sure about that last one? What about UAB?
well, UAB, oh, that's for sure academics. You know that for
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
sure.
They
And,
produce the tip-top.
really smart people go to UAB,
I
and a lot of them become doctors and
Go Dragons.
dentists. And
Are they the Dragons?
No, they're the Blazers.
Why do I...
Like a coat?
Well, because they're
Like a jacket?
like a
sports
lightning
coat.
bolt. A lightning bolt.
Wait, that's a blazer. Okay, there's a lot of things
Oh,
that
okay.
a blazer can be.
Yeah.
Obviously, the sport coat, or like a trailblazer,
But it is. It
or
is.
a lightning bolt.
Well, but our mascot is more of a I guess you could call it a dragon, like a fire breathing.
That's what
dragon.
I picture as a
but
dragon.
We're the Blazers. Yeah, we actually adopted that name.
I'd wear a blazer if I was a student. I'd wear a blazer everywhere I went.
Every
Just,
day,
yeah,
I'm a blazer.
Every game we
Yeah.
all wear blazers.
When
Yeah,
we
suit
were,
up, here we are.
and
Suit up.
Most people think that I went to Auburn. I did not go to Auburn. I'm just a huge Auburn fan. Grew up an Auburn fan. But Cindy and I both went to UAB,
where you
University
met.
of Alabama, Birmingham.
You met in class, right?
In chemistry class, and the chemistry was just right.
Mm.
So, no, we actually didn't meet there. We met at the hospital because we were born in the same hospital, delivered by the same doctor. 3 days apart. We were in the nursery together for 2 days.
Wow.
And then we actually met in college.
Do you feel that it was meant to be?
Yeah, I knew I'd seen her before when I saw her. It was a strange connection.
You look familiar.
She had changed quite a bit.
Ryan, you met your wife in college as well.
I did. I met my wife.
In class? Or what's the story
no,
there?
we
go there?
I'll tell it real briefly.
Yeah.
I was not exactly living a Christian life when I got to my freshman year of college.
Tell me more.
Little renegade, long hair, pierced lips, skateboarding everywhere. I was about to drop out of school.
By the way, Christians can do all those things.
Yeah, I know, but just like there are other things I was doing that were in line with that lifestyle
you're
too. Really in the punk lifestyle. Okay. Anyways, we were looking for a party after a football game is what we were doing. We were looking for the rowdy, the good party. Yeah, the good party. Me and my group of friends.
You at the Baptist University.
Yeah, Mary Hardin Baylor. And so we asked this guy, well, where's the good party? And he said the party's at the Red House. And we were like, oh, with the title like the Red House, it's got to be great. We get there and it's where the BSM met to hang out after the football games. There's nothing rowdy happening there.
But you went to UMHB. I mean,
I know. We had to drive to Austin to find anything good.
I just don't picture nightlife being too popping in Belton.
Exactly. Okay. There was like horseshoes and chips. Anyways, Amy was at that party.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Okay, and Amy's like, this is what I do.
And Amy was like, yeah, she was having a good time. And I was like, this is terrible. I want out of here. Like, and so all my friends left and we didn't like each other. It took us a while.
That was your first impression?
My first impression was, goody two-shoe Baptist girl and these Baptist kids.
Did you really even remember meeting her?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I remember she was there.
There was an impression. It just was negative.
It was very negative. And it was mutual negativity.
Cool.
I had long hair and a skull beanie on. And I don't know if my lip was pierced at that time, but she remembers looking at me and thinking, you look scuzzy. Like you look like a dirty person that I don't want to hang out with.
If I might, what changed? When did we turn the corner?
One, I liked Amy.
Wait, but when? Because obviously
a couple weeks later, like her roommate.
College moves quick.
Her roommate started dating my roommate, and so
you're naturally hanging out more.
Yeah, so we're naturally hanging out more. And
it's a small campus.
Yeah, here's what really turned it. This is crazy. We went to the mall, and they ditched us, and so I was just stuck there with Amy, and I didn't know what to do, and so I'm following her around the mall.
The Belton Mall?
No, Colleen.
Ooh.
High class Colleen Mall.
Like a Jamba Juice?
Yeah,
good Abercrombie?
It was a dirty mall. And but she was trying on some clothes, and I said, hey, you want me to hold your purse while you try on clothes? Because that's what I did for like my mom when I had to go to the mall with her growing up. So I was like, that's what I did. And she said it was that moment. She was like, oh, this guy isn't so bad after all. So like a small act. Even like
and at that point, you had also turned the corner to be like,
I think so.
Cool.
Yeah, I was starting to go, oh, she's kind of cool. And of course, we were surrounded by Baptist kids, and so I mean, that's who I was with. That was who my company was. So eventually, you start kind of getting back into the stuff that all your friends are doing and your community's doing, and so it was a really positive time for me. I probably needed it. Had I dropped out and actually just took off like I wanted to do, life could have been in a very different place today.
We're glad that you didn't.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. The community of Christ saved my life. Seriously.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And we're glad.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad too.
Married the next year.
No, we dated all through college, and I did a victory lab. I did 4 years and then a victory lab, so 5 years, and then I graduated.
And then you got married.
Yeah, and then we got married.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Happily ever after. Well, that was a bonus. I didn't plan on it.
Now here we are.
But we do have Ryan, and the joy of having a guest. Oh, I didn't say Luke is being a good dad and community member and helping with the Run Club at JB Little Elementary School, and that's why he couldn't be, because we had to reschedule because of the funerals.
I thought it was because he didn't like Isaiah, so that's not it. It's because he had something else to do.
At least last time we were on the podcast, he was nerding out on Isaiah, so I think he had plenty to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now he's being a cool community dad.
Got it.
Helping with the Run Club.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At his kids'
elementary
school.
Now we have got... And I mean this seriously. We have a really good, capable theologian meeting with us today. Ryan.
Tell me more about that.
Well, Ryan has written the curriculum for our adult Bible study groups for the Advent season. And it is a take on the several prophets, prophetic pronouncements about the Messianic era. Last week was about the Day of the Lord. And my wife is a very serious Bible student. I mean, she is one of those that just explores the Scripture very deeply, and she is all
not messing around
about Ryan Chandler right now. She will be in usually she studies at the kitchen table. She obviously makes fun of me because I have an office at the house, and I have an office here at the church, here in the Wade building. I have an office across the street.
You do have at least three offices.
And so she's like, "It's okay, honey. I'll just use the kitchen table. No big thing." But anyway, so she'll be in there going, "Ryan is so good. This is really good." So yeah, I've heard that numerous times already this year. So
how does that make you feel, Ryan?
Humbled. I enjoy writing. I really do. I like writing. I like digging into the Bible. I think that's surprising to some people because I'm so goofy and funny all the time. And I like to balance these things out. I really do care about the Bible, and I care about what it has to say, and I like pulling truths out of it. At the same time, I don't take myself all too seriously, but I take the work that I do very seriously.
I think that we all know that, but if you felt like you needed to say that, then more power to you.
That's great.
But I think the church is getting to know both sides of you.
Hopefully
in balance.
Yeah, hopefully everybody's just going, okay, we kind of get it. Yeah.
No, you get to be goofy because you're good at your job.
He is good.
Yeah, it's very humbling. I was telling Amy, on December 1st when everybody started this curriculum, I've never written a curriculum for this large group of people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that morning I was waking up and I was just like, oh my gosh,
a little vulnerable, right?
All of these people, all of these people are going to study something I've written, and I took it seriously when I was writing it, and at the same time in that moment I was like, man, I really hope that this
delivers.
This is good for people.
It shapes people. What we do
absolutely
really does matter.
Yeah. And hopefully it inspired a love for the Old Testament and a love for the prophets.
I have it right here with me.
Yeah, but hopefully it just made people excited to read some texts that they haven't read before.
Well, I've been getting very good feedback. Mm-hmm. And
really
I don't know if your name is on it or not, because a couple people have come to me and they said, "Did you write that?" And I'm like, "Oh, but
it doesn't say Ryan's
wonderful
name.
For you to think that, but no, I have nothing to do with curriculum right now."
I put in an Easter egg at the end, at the very last lesson.
The last lesson,
I said something about
it was Ryan.
The last lesson, I said something about Poteet, Texas.
Oh, and yeah. So
when you get to the last lesson, that was my
listening.
Secret little slide-in Easter egg.
Yeah, I will also say for those of y'all that have been journeying with us on the Word and Deed, the Together in Word and Deed, which I'm very grateful to the team that put that together.
I have that also.
That's another little sneaky thing, because most people think that either you or Kurt wrote it all,
right?
Which is not. It's half true, because you did all the Together in Word. I mean, you thought that through to kind of give us the scaffolding to move forward. But Ryan wrote all the. Oh, he and Crodal together, but you wrote a lot of the parent spotlights. Mm-hmm. And so if you've been reading those and enjoyed the parent spotlight, you can thank Ryan for the majority of those. And then Luke Stair did the Together in Deed. Mm-hmm. And we never really put names with that. Not really on purpose or not on purpose, but it's not about us and our credit, but it's just about our church getting what they need.
It's a great word about the talent level we have on our staff right now, though.
I will say I'm really proud of the team. Mm-hmm. One, excellent. It got delivered on time all 8 seasons that we did it. And 2, it was without great error. There may have been, nobody's really showed anything to me. I'm sure there could have been a word misspelled or comma in the wrong place. But pretty much page to page was what we intended it to be. And that's pretty cool for producing 8 of these with everything else going on in our time.
Excellent.
That those were compiled well and edited well. I really appreciate that too. So well done, team.
I'm very pleased.
I think it's one of the most powerful things about First Baptist Church of Arlington. I've never been in a church that has provided as many resources as we do to help people engage in not only the sermons, but the Bible and classes on parenting. We work really hard as a staff collectively to help provide everybody with what they need in whatever season of life they're in, and
I hope so.
I'm happy and proud to be part of that.
Happy and proud.
And speaking of that, this podcast is actually sponsored by First Baptist Arlington. So and coming up,
were you in here? It was Tanner mostly, but you may have been a part of it. He's like, "This is sponsored by," and it was like whatever coffee he was holding or whatever iPhone he was using. And I was like, just to be clear,
had to clean that up.
Just to be clear,
it's actually really sponsored by First
Baptist
Baptist Arlington.
The entity that's actually paying the bills for this is your tithes and offerings. So thank y'all so much.
And speaking of that, this coming Sunday
there is a lot of good going on.
Christmas Adventure.
Do you want to tell us about it as part of the Young Families Pod?
Christmas Family Adventure is designed to help young families, particularly your preschoolers and children, school-age children, engage in the Easter story. Dr.
Christmas
Wiles.
story.
Christmas story.
Okay. Easter's good too.
Thank you.
This one's Christmas.
And I have Easter on my mind because I'm working on something else. But Dr. Wiles is telling the Christmas story, I believe, at least twice.
3 times.
No, a third addition.
Don't miss it.
Yeah, we have donkey rides there. We added a bunch of stuff because we have a lot of people coming. Pony carousel. We'll have a live nativity where people from our church will be playing Mary and Joseph. So that's the goal of it. There's no Santa Claus. There's no, maybe some of the other traditional aspects of Christmas.
Christian.
We want people to, and we want your kids to kind of engage in that story and remember that and let that be the driving narrative of our young family's Christmas. So that's the goal of it.
I'm excited. As a parent, I'm really excited about it because my kids are just now turning the corner they love animals.
Oh, good.
They're obsessed with farm animals. And so I think just to get to last year there's a petting zoo. They had no clue what was going on. They're just scared of everything because they were like barely a year old, little potatoes. But this year, I think they're really going to enjoy it. And I'm excited as a church staff to just provide something for our community and be able to serve in that way and lift up kind of this sounds cheesy, but the real, how do I say this better? The real narrative behind the Christmas story that's not so commercialized. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
And there's a lot of animals. There's going to be a lot of animals. The pony carousel,
Ben
2
Hodges
donkeys.
is going to lose his ever-loving mind.
Yeah, 25 apparently I heard today. Our petting zoo has 25 animals that are going to be there, so it's a big petting zoo.
We're going to pet all 25.
Yeah, good.
Just be ready for that.
All of them. I think the animal part of the Christmas story for a little kid is probably the most tangible or just the thing they can really envision. Yeah. You can see animals and you can see the barn.
And it does help paint the picture of how earthy and different, right? The birth of Jesus really was.
Exactly, yeah. It's going to smell like animals out in the courtyard.
That's going to be awesome.
Sorry, ops staff.
So again, this podcast brought to you by First Baptist Arlington.
Yeah, so that's this coming Sunday. Yes. Next Wednesday night, the 18th, our TMS Senior Adult Choir, they're doing their concert. A Journey to Bethlehem? Something about Bethlehem.
I think it's a night in Bethlehem.
A night in Bethlehem, sorry. They're doing that, and then we kind of...
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. We
3 services on Christmas Eve.
1:30, 3, 4:30. That's Christmas
correct.
Eve. Family friendly.
And we're having services on Sunday morning each Sunday in December as well.
The 29 is one service.
Correct.
More family friendly. There will be childcare, but not classes. No classes for anybody.
That's right.
Yeah. So...
Got a great lineup. I'm excited.
It's very exciting.
Then it'll be 2025, flourishing together.
I can't even talk about it.
Yeah.
I can't even talk about it.
So excited about it.
Well, I can invite you to the Flourishing Retreat, January 24th through 26th.
It's going to be so good.
FBCA.org/ I don't know, launch?
I think it is. I think so.
It's on our event page. We'd love for you to start registering. It's free, but you need to register so we can have an idea of who's walking in that day.
That is right.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be good.
Okay, boss. We're several minutes in. You preached yesterday. We haven't even talked about it.
Right.
How's that feel?
I'm good. I preached yesterday. Isaiah.
And I watched you preach twice today.
That's true. So 3 different sermons in 2 days, right?
Well, if you count, you did more of a homily, I guess, last night.
Maybe 4 different. Then, yeah. It's kind of been interesting.
And then whatever sermons you preached to your family, to your kids, to your grandkids.
Preaching to my grandkids. It was all good. Sunday morning, we were in Isaiah 9. A light has dawned. And so in the sermon, we tried to set forth some historical context because Isaiah's a little far removed for us. And
you can't really make assumptions. You can't say things like, we all know that this king was in power.
King Ahaz,
they're not going to remember that. I'm not going to remember that.
Yeah. So just trying to put the text where we are in the book in the context of what was going on in Isaiah's life, what was going on in the life of Judah at the time. And it was just, as Ryan and I, we were joking before we started, Ahaz was a wicked king. He just was. And and Isaiah was the prophet while he was king. Now his son, Hezekiah, will end up being a really good king. But Ahaz was not a good king. And while he was king of Judah, Israel and Syria were being attacked by Assyria, which was a much larger nation, huge army, major world power. And they were afraid they were going to be conquered, which ends up actually happening. So they wanted Ahaz and Judah to join forces with them and see if they together might be able to combat Assyria. Ahaz wouldn't do it, so they turned and attacked Judah. So the Lord, through Isaiah, challenged Ahaz, turn to me and let me answer you. And Ahaz wouldn't do it. Instead, he decided to turn to the king of Assyria and negotiate with a pagan ruler. which doesn't surprise us when you realize the character he had. He had already sacrificed his son to pagan gods. He was allowing all kinds of pagan worship practices to happen in Judah.
Which is no small thing.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And, but I mean, child sacrifice was something that occurred in the pagan world.
Yeah.
But then he's on his way to meet the Assyrian king, and he stops in Syria and sees a pagan worship site, and he gets so enamored with this pagan worship ritual in the altar, he actually has a sketch of it drawn and sends it back to Jerusalem to Uriah, the priest in Jerusalem, and says, make me an altar like this, and when I get home, I'm going to use it. So then he comes home and he quits using the Lord's altar in the temple and puts this pagan altar in place and starts making pagan sacrifices to pagan gods in Jerusalem. And Isaiah is speaking into that very moment. And so it was in fact, at the end of Isaiah 8, it says the people are going to be thrust into utter darkness. That's what Isaiah says. That's what's happening on your watch to Ahaz. So, yeah, it was a very, very challenging time in history. And so, then the question was, what's God going to do about it? And as I said Sunday morning, what's fascinating, the answer was a baby of all things. The last thing Ahaz was looking for was a baby. He's looking for an army, or a general, or, some kind of superpower, or an alliance with the superpower, Assyria. And instead, the Lord says, back in Isaiah 7, we're going to have this child. And then in Isaiah 8, it seems like that prophecy is fulfilled, because when the prophecy is given in Isaiah 7, God tells Ahaz, ask me for a sign, and Ahaz says to him that was in some ways giving in to the very presence and power of God, so he wouldn't do it. So God said, well, I'll give you a sign anyway. So that's when you read that text, Isaiah 7:14, the Lord himself will give you a sign. So in other words, it's almost like him saying, I don't care what you want, I'm going to give you a sign. And that's when he says this maiden, this virgin, is going to have a baby. And it'll be God with you. And so then you come to chapter 8, and so Isaiah marries a young maiden who at the time when Isaiah 7 was written was a virgin maiden, marries. They have a baby. God gives a special name to that baby. And that seems to be the answer to Isaiah 7. That, okay, a baby's been born, and it signifies there's life beyond Ahaz. There's the sense that there's a future beyond anything they have. And however, what we'll learn is you get to Isaiah 9, and more information is given about that baby. It's not just this baby. There's still one to come. And so, and this one is going to lead the government, and he'll be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. So the prophecy gets thicker, if you will. And so it's one of those examples in the Old Testament where you have a prophecy that gets fulfilled at some level in its own setting, but it then portends a time when there's going to be greater fulfillment. And that's what happens here. That happens several times in the Old Testament, where a prophecy will be given. Like in 2 Samuel, the Lord tells David, you're not going to build my house, but a house will be built, and your son will do that. And then he says, and then your son will sit on the throne forever. Well, so Solomon fulfills the prophecy. He becomes king and builds the temple, but he doesn't sit on the throne forever. Right. There's more to come in that prophecy, and so later, of course, Jesus will be that son of David. So you have layers of prophetic fulfillment in the Old Testament sometimes. That's not that uncommon, and this is one of those. And then if you go, like as I said Sunday, fast forward 700 years, and Matthew is the one primarily that looks back on all this and says, this is how this all fits together. That this prophecy about this virgin is most fully fulfilled in Mary, and that is given to the dream that Joseph has. And then the judgment that was pronounced on the northern kingdom, the land of Zebulun and Naphtali in Isaiah 9, well, that was where Israel was. They were conquered by the Assyrians. And the Lord says, I'm going to redeem that land. I'm going to redeem the area of Galilee. And so when Jesus starts his ministry and he chooses to live in Capernaum, Matthew looks back on that text and says, well, here it is. Jesus the Nazarene is now in Galilee, and his ministry is going to emerge from here, and God is going to fulfill the prophecy of Isaiah 9 and redeem this whole land. And so this Galilean will become the Redeemer. So it's pretty cool how it all fits together, and It's how the Spirit of God has woven all this together through history. So, and then we still have prophecy yet to be fulfilled. That's the cool thing. Ryan, you just wrote about the day of the Lord. I mean, when you look at the Scripture, it's not like every prophecy's been fulfilled. It just hasn't. But enough has been fulfilled in Jesus, as to understand and believe, document that He really is the Messiah. So yeah, Isaiah is awesome. I love it. But trying to set the context, to me, helps deepen the opportunity for understanding, because you could just read this and it has enough meat in it to just read it and go with it. But if you really think through what was going on at the time and what God was communicating through Isaiah, speaking into a very dark moment, well, that to me adds so much more meaning to it all. So that's why I like to do a little bit of the history. Of course, Isaiah's a little controversial, as we talked last week, in terms of what is the history of Isaiah.
I asked about second Isaiah.
I'm a single Isaiah guy. That's just my take, and I think there's enough evidence to document that, and I'm in good company. But the genre of the literature will change, and we will see that when you get later in the book. He's poetic at the beginning, but he's going to get really poetic, towards the end of the book. But that doesn't bother me at all. I feel like my writing changes depending upon the context. It's all good. So yeah.
Any strong thoughts on second Isaiah?
I don't have any opinions about second or even third Isaiah.
Any strong thoughts on Dr. Wiles' sermon yesterday?
I really like, obviously, taking this idea of darkness. Obviously, most of our people that are in our church today have probably never been caught in a situation where you have two countries attacking you and they're here marching into your territory. Like that darkness that he's talking about, probably so hard for us to wrap our minds around and translate, but there's a real darkness here in our world too. I thought you did a good job on Sunday trying to say this same darkness that exists at Isaiah's time, that's
manifesting itself.
Yeah, that manifests itself in our world today, and it's here present in so many ways. For young families in particular, just the pressure of family life and trying to figure out priorities. There really is this pulling away from the faith and traditional values and traditional Christian values in the United States. So many distractions. That darkness may not be a war. It may come couched in a lot of different ways in our life that we can't see. But I just like the fact that you're adamant that this is pervasive in our world too. That same sort of darkness may not look the same, but it's there.
It's sneaky.
And depending on where you are in the world today, I was reading an article this morning, with this overthrow of the Syrian government.
It's not that far-fetched, right?
No.
Like in other parts of the world.
I mean, we're reading about Isaiah, and the king of Syria is overthrown by another power. Well, that's happened this very week here. But I was reading about there were families kind of in that Middle Eastern area, the Levant area, if you want to call it that. Some of them have gone to Syria because there's some prison there in Syria where Assad and his family, mainly his family, I guess, have been imprisoning people, some of them for like 30 years. And so there are folks who have no idea if their loved ones are still alive or not. And now that this new regime has taken over, evidently they're just opening this prison that's had all these people in it for all these years. So think about that kind of darkness. Here we are in 2024, and there are families scattered around that region who've had their family members kidnapped and taken into this prison for really no reason. And now here they are in 2024, driving into Syria, trying to figure out if their loved one that was taken, 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 30 years ago is still alive.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I was reading that this morning thinking there are some places in the world that are incredibly dark.
They don't need you to make a metaphor out of this.
That's right. This is their life.
Yeah.
And but I think in our culture, the darkness is just as real. It's just, like you said, Ryan, it's packaged differently.
Yeah.
But I also think that darkness, to me, as I've given more thought to it, I'm still unpacking it, to be honest with you, because I'm continuing to preach on it, is it's not just the absence of light. It's like it can become more than that. It becomes oppressive on its own. It can just truly do something to you. It's almost like a force.
It almost feels to me, Pauline, where Paul helps us understand powers and principalities, certainly, but also evils that some celebrate. Like he talks about, like, what others are pleasuring in and even celebrating, really, we ought not, and it's really actually evil leading you in the wrong direction. Like Paul's speaking into that, where maybe in Isaiah is more obvious to most people that what's going on is really, really bad. Now I think we live in more of like a Pauline era where it's sneaky, like it's upside down,
right.
Where some things look good on the surface and other people think they're great and we celebrate them. Sexuality being one of them, but also just greed or individualism or things that look respectable and they elevate them and we can even be proud of them. Even Christians can fall in that. But actually the underbelly is extreme darkness, but it's dangerous, it's sneaky.
Because I think that darkness, to me, the way I usually think about it, I think darkness feeds the worst part of us, and that's what grows in darkness. Whereas light tends to develop what's best in us. And that's how I like to draw the distinction in my own mind as I'm thinking about how some things people may embrace and they think it's okay. Like, for example, Ryan, I know you've done a lot of research on marriage. And in our culture, when someone says, well, I think I'm going to move in with so-and-so, just live with them for a while, see how it goes. Yeah. We'll have a sexual relationship. We'll try this out. And others say, well, obviously before you get married, that is what you should do. You should do that. That makes perfect sense. When actually that's just darkness that somehow has found a hearing, and it actually feeds something that actually is what's worse in us, and it doesn't even really work, as you have talked about some to our young families.
Yeah. It's clothing darkness in virtue's colors. I think that's what's so scary about it in our culture. It's taking something really damaging for you, and sin in our world and those powers and those principalities are really good at cloaking that and making it seem like, no, this is actually a really good thing. Don't let that old traditional folgy church out there tell you can't do these things. You're actually more moral if you will cohabitate. And it's stuff like that in so many different areas. If you're a young adult listening, yes, cohabitation, the statistics are you are much more likely to get divorced if you cohabitate versus not. And those are stats that even non-Christians point out. But I mean, so many different topics that we try to, that sin is just really good at hiding itself.
Yeah. And it's almost like that image, in the scripture where sin's crouching at the door, you go back in the ancient understanding of it. Darkness has that feel to me. And so I've just been reading about, just in research that I haven't had time to bring it up on a Sunday morning, but you read through some of the research on people that live
That's
in
why we do Tell Me More.
Yeah. Well,
for the stuff that boils over on Sunday mornings.
You look at people who live in places on earth where there's darkness, protracted darkness, for weeks on end, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like really high north.
Right. Yeah. And it has a certain psychological impact on people. You have to learn how to live in it because your rhythms are off, just like I've shared with y'all right now. Little Gideon is still with us. Josiah and Adrian are still there. Their hot water heater is supposed to be fixed tomorrow, but we've had a sweet time with him. Well, buddy, when he sees us turning dark outside, it means something to him. He knows that we're going to, it's time to eat, we're getting ready to go to bed, and it signals, and it's just his rhythm. So this morning, when I happened to be with him there when he woke up this morning, sweet time, and when he wanted to go look outside. And so I got him out of his bed, and I'm walking in the living room. He says, Poppy, it's light outside. So here's this little 2-year-old, and well, of course it is. He's woken,
kind of informing
he's been
his
awakened
rhythms.
in the morning. Well, think about it if we lived in a place where we wake up at 7 a.m. and it's still pitch dark.
I don't like it.
There's just something about that.
I'm not even good with the time change. It's so dark because I don't like getting home when it's already dark.
Yeah.
Or if I'm in my office and it's dark, I think this is all wrong.
Yeah. There's just something about it though that it has an impact on people, and it's almost like you need a break from it. The same thing is true if it's all light. When I used to pastor in Alabama and Huntsville's home to NASA. And I've always been infatuated with the whole, space industry, space exploration. And so the engineers that were in our church many of them were government engineers. A lot of them had independent jobs. But it was always fascinating to me to talk to those NASA scientists, just random questions, that I would ask them. We had one guy in the church that was basically overseeing the launching of the space shuttle. And they had a NASA channel there where you could actually watch, and it would be the space shuttle orbiting the Earth or whatever. It was always upside down, And so I asked this guy when they were having lunch, I said, so why is it the space shuttle is always upside down? And he was like, what do you mean? I said, well, like when it's in orbit, it's upside down. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I said, dude, have you never watched the NASA channel? You're a scientist. He said, I watch it every day. He said, Pastor, there's no upside down in space.
There's no upside.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. They're in space. They're in orbit.
No.
There's no gravity. There's no upside down. I was like, of course there's upside. I'm looking at it. It's flying upside down. And he said, well, based upon your very provincial view of perspective, but that's not what they're doing. They're in a zero gravity environment. And so we kind of got talking about that. And I said, well, what does that do to them? And he said, one of the hardest things for them is sleeping. He said, because there's no gravity.
You can't really lay down.
And you can't feel the fact that the weight has been released when you lie down. Mm-hmm. And there's no dark. There's no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And he said, so what they have to learn to do is focus on an object. They train them with their eyes open before they try to fall asleep to focus on something and get oriented and just imagine yourself laying down. Just start imagining and telling your brain, I'm laying down, I'm tired, it's nighttime. And he said, but some of them do it better than others, but they don't have that sense of a rhythm, if you will.
Sure.
And so there's something about darkness and light to me that play on it that's really interesting to me and a little bit mysterious. I'm still kind of sorting through it all because you could argue darkness is not all bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I brought Barbara Brown Taylor with me last week because she has a book. I don't agree with all of Barbara Brown Taylor, so if you're listening and just want to read her whole collection, we could talk about it, but there's some things I don't agree with. But she's a great writer, and she has a book called Learning to Walk in the Dark, and her take in that book is just kind of becoming oriented with dark so that you're not so afraid of it because you can learn a lot in dark seasons. I think that'd be a good summary. And so there's something there that is, but that's almost a different definition than what we talk about is this permeating darkness of sin.
That's right.
She's not saying that you learn to live in your sin, but she's saying, she's literally saying, learn to go walk in the woods at night and stop being so afraid of anything that remotely resembles discomfort, fear, darkness, because there's so much that God's actually a part of all of that. And He can meet you in those. Yeah, and that's where you're kind of going to that, where the darkness of Paul, I talked about, he's not saying get comfortable with your darkness.
Right, yeah.
Hers
in the
is
scripture,
a different.
You're right. That idea of darkness is this oppressive expression.
Hers is probably more of a pastoral. Yeah. Dark night of the soul kind of thing. Yes. And then she's saying you can't avoid it or you won't learn what God has for you. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
She wouldn't be saying get comfort.
Enjoy
get
your darkness.
Yeah, no, enjoy the darkness. Let it consume you. Not this permeating
but
sin.
People do, the Bible says, love darkness because their deeds are evil.
Well, and their glory is their shame. Or shame. Their shame is their glory. Yeah. That's what I think of when we think about darkness. And this my generation too. It's not just the ones younger, but
and that's why
we can celebrate things that we ought not.
Yeah, I think Isaiah, to me, that's why I've enjoyed this study of Isaiah, because he uses these contrasts in his writings, judgment and hope, and this idea of suffering and deliverance, and one of those is light and darkness. He just references light and darkness so many times through the prophecy that it just makes for intriguing reading to me. And it's funny now, I've gotten where I just notice it everywhere. Just reading through the scriptures, I never noticed that the word dark was used in that text. It's almost like when I bought my car. It's been a long time since I've had just a really bright white car. And now I've just started noticing everybody drives a white car. As far as I'm concerned, everywhere I go.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, so it's like every intersection I go, God, look at all the white cars. I've never noticed it. I'm feeling that's what's happening to me right now as I study the scripture. I'm like, man, I never saw the word dark or darkness in that text, and it's all over that text. I'm really sensitive to it right now. So it's been really good, though. I'm enjoying it. In fact, I'm going to preach on it again this coming Sunday.
Let's do it.
I'm going to preach on Christmas lights this coming Sunday from Isaiah 42. And, just like right
Teaser,
now.
Here we come.
Well, Hannah's neighborhood, she lives in Interlochen, where she grew up, actually. Well, I was taking the kids home last night from the Christmas performance. And, dude, it is lit up right now. And it's just interesting. You kind of drop down off the hill into the darkness, in Westwood, and all of a sudden you start going and you look and, oh my goodness, it's just the whole place just lit up, and just there's such there's something about that force of light that just draws you to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very interesting. Mm-hmm. So so I'm looking forward to this coming Sunday.
I can't wait. Mm-hmm. Okay, Ryan Chandler, I'm glad you joined us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
I mean,
anything you want to say to the people of First Baptist Arlington?
No, I thank y'all for your support this whole year. You know, I'm a little over a year in.
Yeah, you're like, what, 15 months in?
Something like that. Yeah. Very supportive church. Very happy to be here. Never been in a place I felt more supported. I'm also just, the more of our church members that I get to know, the more, especially some of our saintly ones.
Mm-hmm. You could say older.
Yeah, our older, seasoned adults.
Good people.
Really, really solid people that are sharing that light of Christ in their world and their community and have lived a life where they're doing that. And I love getting to hang out with like the Wednesday morning crowd and getting to know some of them and hear their stories. This is a great church.
And their faith. I'm not trying to take over.
No.
Sorry. All right, some of our older people, they just have faith. I mean, they're really doing the thing,
Exactly.
They really believe all this, and they're really living it out.
Yep.
It's cool.
Yep.
It's powerful.
We're grateful to have Ryan Chandler.
Well, let me tell you, Ryan's been a gift to our church, and we're grateful to have him. The Lord's using him.
To at least 15 more months.
Yeah, at least 15 more. Yeah, he gets to stay.
Yeah.
And I am currently working on something for Lent. Hopefully we can get something
we're trying to
really
scheme
good out.
on Lent and Holy Week.
We're trying to do some good stuff
Easter.
there too. Yep.
Because it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the big deal.
It is.
So we don't want to miss it. We don't want to miss it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank y'all for joining. We'll be back next week.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening to the Tell Me More podcast today. You can subscribe to this podcast on your app of choice, or you can visit us at fbca.org to find out more information about the podcast and our church. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.